Hey everybody, welcome back to Car People, sponsored by Arch Auto Parts. I'm your host, Craig Garrity. Today's guest, William DeMeo. You might know him from A Bronx Tale, Sopranos, or maybe from his own series, Gravesend, going into season 2 now. He's going to talk about Gravesend, he's going to talk about cars, he's going to talk about his own clothing line. This guy does it all. He's a real Renaissance man. William, let's do it. All right, welcome to Car People. Got William DeMeo here today. William, thanks for being here. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Craig.
Let's get started with Gravesend. So, just for the folks who aren't aware, you want to give me a quick synopsis of season 1 and what we can kind of look forward to in season 2.
Well, season 1 came out on April 3rd, 2020, and we did very well. It started on Amazon Prime and Tubi, and we built a very strong fan base.
I know you did, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I felt like there was a thirst for this type of a show. People, I think, were missing something about organized crime in Brooklyn. You know, since The Sopranos ended, I feel like there was a void.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of waited a little while because it's always been on my mind to do a show.
And now, you wrote this, you directed it, and you star in it.
Yes.
This is like you've taken this baby from a seedling all the way. You know, that's an incredible accomplishment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's that. But I have a great team. I have great people around me, which helps. I have, great cinema photographer, great producers, great it's definitely not all me, but
Yeah.
I have great people around me that help me get to where I need to be, that work really hard. When you're doing this independently, it is a major challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm up for challenges. I like challenges. This is a challenge, and you can't imagine, because let's think about this. To make one movie, an independent movie, is a milestone. To make one. To do a show, we just did numerous episodes, right? So we just finished 4 movies in a year.
Yeah.
It's hard to make one. So think about the pressure of being able to do that independently and have a story continue from the beginning to the end independently.
And you got to wear a lot of hats because... Now, did you write all the episodes for the second?
I wrote all the episodes, and I directed.
Yeah.
And I play the main character, and I helped with a lot of other things, being that it's shot mostly in Brooklyn. A lot of locations. I helped to get locations. I brought a lot of cars. I own a bunch.
Because you were born and raised in Gravesend?
Gravesend, Bensonhurst.
And
yes.
it's now you went back to neighborhood and shot a lot of shot there.
The whole show is Brooklyn.
That's...
There's hardly any scenes that are not in Brooklyn. 90% of the show is in Brooklyn. Some of it's in Florida. In season 2, we shot a bunch of scenes in Miami, and we shot a little bit in Jersey and other places, Long Island, but it's primarily all in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's as authentic as you can get. Now, the show was set in 1986.
Yeah, and that's another challenge, is to do a period piece, is to make a period piece and be able to have your frame being able to not go too wide, because you're always seeing something that doesn't belong.
Like a cell phone store.
Like everything. Like ATMs,
of course.
Like air conditioners sticking on the outside of the houses, like satellite dishes that don't belong.
Yep.
It's beyond belief how much different it changed. You try to find streets that haven't changed that much, and then with the special effects, you get to be able to hide certain things, but that's the biggest challenge is that.
Yeah.
If this was contemporary now, it would be way easier.
Oh my God, yeah, and you'd be able to.
We're also dealing with all the cars.
That's what I was going to say. Is in order to keep all of this, aside from the obvious things like clothing and hairstyles and things like that, the image that's going to be picked up a lot of cars.
Absolutely.
And it's 1986, so you need cars from what year to what year? Obviously, you can't go past 86.
There's flashbacks that were in the 60s and stuff too, so those are great scenes,
yeah,
black and white, and you see the old really cars from like the 60s and 50s. But like you just said, wardrobe is so important, hairstyles, jewelry. props,
The whole bit.
payphones, parking meters. They don't exist no more.
And this is the guy who's sitting there who's watching the movie, who's saying something like, "Oh, that's a plastic cup. They didn't have that. They were using styrofoam."
They'll find the silliest little, most ridiculous things that they feel is not appropriate.
Of course.
Which you'll find in the Gone with the Wind. Like you'll find it in any movie.
Without a doubt.
There's nothing that is completely 100% perfect.
Yeah,
so.
There's a shot of Scarlett O'Hara with a cell phone, and a lot of people see that. I'm kidding you. No, but you're a car guy, so the cars in this have to be not just period and things like that, but also specific to the type of car that a certain character would drive.
Yeah.
Like, you're pairing up a car with a character.
Well, if you've remember Donnie Brasco, these gangsters, he said a Lincoln or a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Most of them drive. Well, I wanted to be a little more original, and the character drives the main character, which I played, Benny Zerletta, drives a Buick Grand National, which at the time was the fastest car produced. In '86, that was the fastest car you could own. It was faster than the Corvette.
Yeah.
Turbo, and the character's kind of a little more into speed than but what you see Cadillacs and Lincolns and Buicks and Corvettes and all these cars all spread all over the street everet
Absolutely. You never see a lot of gangsters driving like a Pinto.
No Pintos. There are Pintos on the streets.
Yeah.
But we didn't have too many Pintos in the, but basically you see, Lincoln Town Cars, Lincoln Continentals, Cadillac Coupe de Ville, Sedan de Villes, Fleetwood Bromes.
Where are you sourcing those? Like, do you have a specific guy that you go to? Because just for the record, you are someone who not just knows about cars, you really like cars. So you got to have a bit of a network, right?
I'm part of car clubs and stuff like that. And, Chuck Zito has some great cars.
Yep.
He's part of our cast. My friend Anthony Aveni owns a bunch of old cars. He brought some great cars to set. My friend Tommy Ramola, Big Time Tommy, everybody knows Tommy. Big Time Tommy with the cigars, OS for life. He brought a whole bunch of great cars. He himself is 25 Cadillacs.
Wow.
So, and then we're part of the Cadillac Club, and people, and all my friends, I grew up in Brooklyn, a lot of people still own older cars. We had, my dad has some great cars. We had a Cuda on set from, 70 Cuda. We had some really old, like the 60s cars and stuff. We had a 57 Chevy. We had some great, cool cars. That's the fun part of it.
Yeah, that is. I directed a film once, and the character's dream car was a 39, it was a 1939 Lincoln, I believe. I can't remember some of the specifics, but we were able to find one. And one of the last shots of the movie is he's driving off in it. And it was an older actor. It was Phil Bosco. Great actor, great Broadway actor. But he had driven tractor trailers for some small circuses around Jersey. But nobody knew, Phil, could you drive this car? And I remember he looked at me and goes, yeah, I drove tractor trailers for circus. So he was so excited to get to drive the car.
Of course.
But a lot of these guys, as they should be, are very careful. These are their babies. So how do they deal with you when you're like, hey, they don't want to get anything messed up? How you got to be super careful.
Well, you're right. We have relationships with a lot of people, and we have another guy, my friend Joe, one of Chuck Zito's best friends. He has the old police cars, so we had police cars on set. And then we shot some great scenes in Florida at John Staluppi's. He has a museum, a car museum, Cars of Dreams. And when you see this scene in the show, it is on a car museum. When you see that the cars that are there are unreal. His car collection, anyone that knows cars knows John Staluppi has one of the best collections, like Jay Leno. Like that's his collection. He's like right up there with Jay Leno. What an amazing car collection. So we shot some scenes at this car museum, and there's so many great cars there. And then another friend of mine owns all of the picture cars. He owns all of the movie cars. A good friend of mine, John, I grew up with him. John, he owned a place called Brighton Collision. And John owns the grease car from, at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
We go together.
Yeah.
And my good, I had John Travolta, a dear friend of mine, signed the door, and Olivia Newton-John signed the other door.
Oh, that's awesome.
For my friend.
And, of course, you were in Gotti with John Travolta
yes,
as well.
Yes, as well. And he owns all the Batmobiles. My friend owns all the Batmobiles. He owns the Monkeys car. He owns the Back to the Future car. He owns the Bat Boat, the Batmobile. Like he owns all these cars, like the Monsters car. It's insane.
And now, is
what
this
he
something
has.
where he's doing it as sort of like a just like a voracious collector, or is this something where is it a monetizing thing too, where you kind of set up your stable and you can rent them out? Because there are obviously in the film industry, TV industry,
Yeah.
there are guys who own old cars who get paid to show up with their
Yeah,
car.
I mean, for him, it's more a love.
It sounds like a passion.
He's built. And when I tell you, he has every movie car you can imagine. I could keep. He has Starsky. He has all
I
these
love that
cars.
car.
He has all of them. It's insane, his collection. And
That's
he's one of
awesome.
the people that brought some cars, not those cars, but he's just another person that has it. They're a dear friend of mine. So when I
And
go
when you're
to,
making something independently, you need to rely on all these, where you need to rely on everybody to kind of
pitch in.
pitch in. Absolutely.
And that's why, like I say, I have great people that work with me that have backed me and worked around the clock.
Yeah.
And our neighborhood, my neighborhood has opened the doors for me, locations that like I didn't have to pay for that were huge, look like Spumoni Gardens, L&B Spumoni Gardens.
Yeah,
You're
and that's a
talking
big deal.
about
Yeah.
a major pizzeria that's packed all day
Yep.
long. Let us shoot there. That's just one location.
Yeah.
There's numerous locations we shot at.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget, the show has been brought to you by Arch Auto Parts. You've got the Arch.
Now, for yourself, your love of cars goes back to when? When did you start knowing, like, geez, I get such a big thrill out of cars yourself?
Oh, well, what happened is I always was a car guy. I always loved cars to begin with. I always loved cars. But as I started to do well as an actor, I started buying like Mercedes and BMWs at one point. I was going toward the exotic type of cars. And then I did a movie which was originally called GOAT, which was the nickname for a GTO.
Uh-huh.
The new name title was called Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn. And my character drove a 68 GTO. And I was driving this car on set. And once someone let us use the car. And as I was driving this car on set, I got this high of like, wow, this is a muscle car. This is a real muscle car. And then I just started to get into the older cars. And I started my first classic car was a 68 GTO. And then I bought a 67 GTO. And then from there, it becomes something that you just like kind of get obsessed with doing.
Yep. Do you take these out to, because you say you're part of some clubs, you getting out there, like say every...
I go to car shows here and there,
Yeah.
but I just, and on another note, I drive my cars. Like, they're not trailer queens.
Got it.
I drive them. I drive them as much as I can. That's my thrill.
Yeah.
When I'm not working and I don't have, which is very rare that I have a minute.
Yeah.
But when I have a minute, I'll just go for a cruise in a Cadillac on like a 78 Coupe de Ville
That's awesome.
or 76 Eldorado convertible. So that's the thing I enjoy the most.
What was your first car, when you got your driver's license?
My first car that I owned was a 78 Buick Electra. And then I took the seats out and I put the Park Avenue cushion seats in. So I made it a Park Avenue.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, that was the first car I had.
That's
And so
sweet.
I just bought a 78 Buick Riviera, which is similar. It's the same, the dashboard's the same as the Buick. So I got something similar to that.
And you got a nice garage for all these? I can't
Yeah,
see you out there
I have-
fighting alternate side of the street
Yeah,
parking
I
on
have
Monday
a
and
home
Wednesday
in,
with
I have
your...
a home in Pennsylvania that has a lot of garage space.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very good. So in PA, you don't have to give us an exact location, of course. What's the list? What's the rundown of some of these greats?
Me and my father have cars together. So if you go by together, we have
together.
It's not just me, but together. We have a 67 Chevelle convertible. We have a 71 Chevelle convertible, 454. We have a 70 Chevelle convertible, 454. 67 GTO Tri-Power, the 3 carburetors, convertible. We have a...
Do you still have the 68 GTO?
The 68, I sold the 68 GTO. That's the one car I sold. We have the Grand National, like I said. We have caddies. Like I have a 78 Eldorado Barretts, that's the most comfortable car you could ever ride in.
Yeah.
That you're floating on your couch. That is like floating. You're floating. You're like, the ride is the best ride of any car that I've ever ridden.
Yeah, that's
Drove
nice. It should come with a snack tray.
It's just like, and the '76 Eldorado convertible has a great ride too. But there's something about that the Barrett seats. Those seats are like being in your, so you're in your living room.
But each car probably fits a certain mood for you, I would imagine. You know, there are certain days you want that Cadillac comfort, then there are some days you want, open it up and
Speed. I'd like to get an IROC soon. I like the IROC too, because that's also would fit the show.
yes, that would, yeah.
Very well. I have a '78 Coupe de Ville with a moonroof. It's in the show. All these, almost every one of these cars in the show. I have another rare car. It's a '79 Le Cabriolet, and what that is in between '77 and '80, Cadillac made about 500 convertibles. Very rare. They're called Le Cabriolets, and I have a convertible, white with red interior, which I've tried to find that car for 7 years, and I finally found one in Ohio, which is a very rare car. That's in the show as well.
Yeah. Now, is your dad there on set? Somebody's got to be there watching all these.
No,
Because I'd be a nervous wreck. Trying to direct, trying to act.
Well, that's the thing.
All these things, then I'd be worried about some buffoon putting a coffee mug down on the roof
You're
of
right.
the car or something.
You're right. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
It's very nerve-wracking.
I would imagine.
Just making your own movie or TV show is nerve-wracking, beyond belief.
Yes,
Beyond belief. There's so many moving parts.
absolutely. Season 2, you mentioned season 2's coming up. You got a couple of, more than a couple, of familiar names. You want to let us in on a couple?
We have a great cast in this new season, as I was mentioning. You know,
Yeah.
we have Chaz Palminteri, Fran Drescher, Armand Asante, William Forsythe, Martin Cove, Mario Cantone, Andrew Dice Clay, Leo Rossi, Sophia Milos,
got some legit-
Gina Gershon.
Yeah, I mean, legit heavy hitters.
We have some great people. But you know what? What's great about this is that we do have some very well-known people in our show. But they're all great, but everyone came to play. So even the less-known people are right up there with them.
That's good.
They hold their own. Chaz Palminteri's daughter, Gabriella Palminteri, she did a great job. His son, Dante, has a part in there as well. My son, Christian, Julia Macho, Ralph Macho's daughter. Some of the newer actors, Chris Mamando and Bruce Sosha, and some of these newer guys, they did great. And we had other veteran actors that maybe aren't as well known as Paul Borghese and Joseph D'Onofrio, Louis Venaria, Louis Lombardi. All these guys, professionals. They're all veterans, and they're great. Everyone's equal. Everyone is equal on screen, which makes us know we have something special. Everyone came to play. Everyone brought their A game.
And you're a Sopranos alumni, and I know you have some Sopranos guys on this on the show.
Do we? Of course, we have great Sopranos. We have the one and only Vinny Pastore, who played Big Pussy. He's great. He plays the consigliere with Chaz Palminteri. He's amazing. Tony Darrow plays the underboss, Joey Muggs. Tony was amazing. He's amazing in everything he does. Al Sapienza, who played Michael Palmisi, who was part of Junior's crew.
Yeah.
He plays a great character in the show. You wait till you see what he does. He's excellent in the season. He does a great job. And Sophia Milos was in The Sopranos as well. Like I mentioned her. We have some. I didn't want to decorate it with too many Sopranos. We also have Dan Grimaldi, who was also in The Sopranos. He plays a role, another role in there. So we got some great people. I mean, The Sopranos. It was so well cast, and we were able to use some of these people. They're all excellent. The success from season 1 was that a lot of well-known actors had seen the first part of what we did, and they gravitated to it. And I got calls from some well-known actors that said, I'd love to fit into this because I like what you're doing. It's like a lot of people liked that it wasn't Hollywood, that it's raw, and it's gritty, and it's real.
Yeah.
It is so what it was like, how it was, and that's the whole thing that I just want people to understand. Is the way I grew up in this neighborhood was a certain way, in a special way that I grew up in, and I put those aspects of what it was like there on the screen and how these characters are.
Yeah.
All these characters. And it's not just about the mafia. The mafia was predominantly very strong in Brooklyn for years, still is. And if you think of any borough, and there's wise guys everywhere.
Of course.
They're in all boroughs. But if you really look at the history, I don't think you could find any place in America that has had more made guys than Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bensonhurst and Gravesend and those areas have probably about, in downtown Brooklyn where the Persicos come from, is probably about 60% of that.
They should put that on those Welcome to Brooklyn signs. You know, when you enter the borough, they have like forget about it. Maybe they should put that on there. I'll talk to the borough president.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Get him on the phone, would you?
I'm sure he would want that.
But that car culture and just the because you also did a documentary on was it Cruising 86?
Cruising 86,
right? So
yeah.
you did a documentary on cruising and the car culture then, which you grew up in. How and it's got to exist to some form today. I know it has changed a lot. Like, you know, online right now you see a lot of guys who are driving like ATVs, and it's a younger crew of guys who are, you know, they're cruising in their different way.
They do it, yeah, and they
But it's
soup up these
different.
Hondas and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
and it's
They
different than
soup
what
up
you were
these-
growing up with. But has that car culture that you grew up with, you know, these guys are a little older now, but that still exists now. It's just a little more refined.
But I don't.
showing up at good.
I don't think it's nowhere near what it was.
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. It's kind of like now it's moved over to the shows.
All right, so when my generation and my neighborhood, 86th Street, okay, this was a place where you went if you wanted to meet someone and you wanted to hang out.
Yeah.
You wanted to meet a pretty girl. You wanted to meet, you know, hang out with your friends and just go around and be seen. You went to 86th Street.
Yeah.
It was a show. It would take you an hour to drive 4 avenues, both sides. Now the cars were right next to each other because you come. It was literally the yellow line is like you could open. You could be cruising and right to your side, you could literally practically touch someone. Like
Yeah.
it was, and the conversation went on, and you met people, and it was packed. People in lounge chairs across the street everywhere. It was packed. That does not exist anymore.
No, that does not.
And it's sad because everyone's home. People don't even sit on their stoops no more. People
Yeah.
don't interact anymore, and that's why the world is the way it is now.
And one of the things we were talking about earlier before we turned on the mics was just the sort of that nostalgia of cars, the camaraderie, the neighborhoods, sort of like it was a shared thing between guys, and not necessarily so much like a competition, but guy had a cool car. You were like, hey, that was a cool car.
Let's think about something. You know, if you drive around all these boroughs in New York, right? And you drive, do you ever see people washing their car?
Oh no, that's
You see people like back then, everyone washed their car.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a mobile detail guy coming to your house
Yeah.
he didn't open up his van and start. You didn't have that.
No.
You cleaned the car yourself, and your car had to look good.
Yep.
You had white walls. They had to be white, no marks.
Yeah.
People would judge you on that. People cared what their cars. First of all, the cars look exactly the same right now.
Yeah.
They don't impress me at all. Even the major expensive. This is my opinion. Everyone has their own opinion on what they like. To me, all these cars look the same, and there's nothing to them, as to an older car with
No.
metal bumper. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
It's
did
just-
you go skitching when you were growing up?
I don't know what Skitchin is. I'm
So in
sorry.
Woodside, so we were an Irish neighborhood, and Nobody had good cars in my neighborhood because the Irish, we have a lot of kids, so everyone had to have a station wagon. But skitching is what you did in the winter when a car drove by and it would slow down a little bit. You jumped on the back and you grabbed onto the bumper, and it was like hitching, but you was skitching a ride on the back of somebody's bumper. This is how Woodside kids got around.
Were you Irish kids drunk when you were doing that?
Of course,
That sounds
of
like
course.
a crazy thing to do.
Well, it's even crazier when the car would go in reverse. But
yeah, I never did that.
I knew I was like aging out of this thing when you realize like there are no more cars with bumpers.
Yeah,
There's nothing to hold on to.
exactly.
Everything had changed from, these giant cars with these beautiful handles and.
But they all had a look to them.
Yeah.
Even the cars that weren't as like prestigious or not, but they looked. They all had their own style.
Yeah, I was gonna say even the cars that people might say were, oh, it's an ugly car, would be today. You see that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well,
Everything.
that car stands out.
Doesn't everything look the same? And I made a post recently on my Instagram about how Cadillac got away from the emblem sticking up. I put this post out there and I said to people, how would you feel about the emblem coming back to the Cadillacs? And 90% of the people were like, the post got so many views and everyone was like, bring it back. We would love to bring it back, even though people would steal it.
Yeah.
But like there's something about when you're driving a car and you look and there's a hood ornament and you're looking at the front and you see a hood ornament with the wreath of the Cadillac.
You don't even hear the term hood ornament anymore.
Exactly.
It'd be like asking a 10-year-old to flip the record.
Yeah,
Like,
there's something about that hood ornament that I think is unique and cool.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a character to it that.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of the cars, they just don't have that character.
But that's why they're not like back then. When you had a Cadillac, it meant something. It doesn't. I don't mean to sound, but it don't mean nothing. A Mercedes, so what?
Yeah.
Not knocking on these companies, it means nothing. If you back then had an SL 500 car, I used to go to this club called Pastels in Brooklyn, and it was a club where everyone went back in the day. And some of the wise guys and some people owned an SL 500 convertible Mercedes. If you owned that car back then, you were a king. Now, it's not the same.
Yeah.
The car don't look the same. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yep. Now with with older cars, like older people, things break down. You got to get new parts, things like that. How important is the part? Can you take some shortcuts and things like that if you're not driving it too far? What do you feel about the parts?
Well, I go to Arch Auto Parts, and they have great stuff there. So that's where we always get our parts from.
Thank you.
And there's multiple locations in Brooklyn. So
yeah, they're all over New York.
Yeah, and they have everything that you could ever. They have stuff that I can't. Certain parts stores, it's a little harder to find that, but they have all the stuff for these older cars.
Yeah. Arch Auto is is our sponsor, so thanks for just dropping that in there. That was totally accidental, but you see, sometimes there are just good, truthful things. Your dream car, because you got all these great cars. Do you have your dream car?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they're all my dream cars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're all. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they all. When I was a kid, I wanted the SL 500, but I couldn't afford it. Now I just like having, like I said, these cars, especially since I could put them in my show.
You've got your dream car. That's pretty cool. I like to hear that.
Well, you know what it was when I was, when I started to drive like a newer Mercedes or a BMW 650, I had some cool cars, but I got bored. I got bored with them. When I drive these older cars, I don't get bored.
Yeah.
I'm not bored.
No,
I'm not bored with them.
Um,
And I'll give you an example, right?
Yeah.
So I did this event at when my movie Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn came out. I did an event at this place called Mount Airy Casino, which is in the Poconos, not too far from where one of my houses
yeah,
is.
by beautiful Mount Airy Lodge.
Yes, right. So this casino, Ice-T was there at this event, and he had his Bentley outside, right in front by the valet. and I had my GTO outside, the 68 GTO. They were parked right next to each other. And when we finished the event and we came out together, there was a whole group of people in front of my car taking pictures. And me and him came out together, and he goes, "Oh, you see? Look at that."
Yeah.
So there's something about the nostalgia to the older cars as opposed to the newer cars, like I said. Even
Absolutely.
though, like a Bentley's, all right, it's great. It's a nice car.
Yeah.
Not knocking Bentley. It's a
No.
great car. It's beautiful. But you see them. You don't see a GTO.
No.
There's none left.
No.
So when you see a car like that, that's what people, people like that.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Ice-T because I wanted to get at a music question before we wrapped up. What is your favorite song when you're driving? What is the a great kick-ass driving song for you? Doesn't have to be one. You could give me a few.
I love the oldies, so there's and I love the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn and all of those songs from back in the day, and just cruising with there's so many great freestyle artists and songs from back in the day, from like Lime, like Your Love from Lime, and just all those great old school songs, Unexpected Lovers and Set It Off. Those songs are like pretty cool to cruise to. You know what I'm saying? I love Hall & Oates.
Yep.
I love Hall & Oates, Out of Touch.
Well, you definitely keep in touch with some old school stuff, and I wanted to ask about what you're wearing because it's got an old school vibe. You want to tell me about that real quick?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I started a company called Brooklyn Brand, which is, all Brooklyn apparel, all stuff that says all different Brooklyn sayings and all different cool stuff, with Brooklyn. And we started these sweatsuits. We had a designer come up with this logo, and we've been, a lot of people wear them, and they're very comfortable and stylish, and yet, especially like fall time,
Yep.
springtime, they're like great, and they got zippers, and so it's cool.
You're not losing your stuff. No, they look
and-
awesome too.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say it's Brooklyn Brand, right?
Yeah, Brooklyn Brand is the name of the company, and you could get our stuff on www.mybrooklynbrand.com.
And
You have
for-
all different types of stuff.
So brooklynbrand.com. And what about if folks want to
MyBrooklynBrand.com.
I'm sorry, thank you. mybrooklynbrand.com.
Yes, sir.
And if folks want to, keep following your career,
On
what's
Instagram, I have stuff from my IMDb, mainly,
and your Instagram handle.
is William DeMeo, my name. Yes.
Thank you for being here, William, talking cars. You know your stuff, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. Thank you so much. I
You got it.
appreciate it. And God bless everybody.
Cheers. We'll be seeing you.
Follow your dreams.
Just a reminder, folks, the podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Arch Auto Parts, your neighborhood auto parts store. If you're not sure where to find one, check out archautoparts.com for a store locator. But just look out because they're popping up all over. Probably coming to your neighborhood very soon.